Good evening, boys, and welcome to the Boss's Big Desk again. Always take it out of you two, yeah. I'm really looking forward to meeting this man. One of my all-time favourites, Justin Leppich. Welcome, mate.
Great to be on, Derm. Thanks for having me, boys.
Teammates, anything to disclose there?
Yes. How long's the show? There's a fair bit.
Number 23 because of this bloke? Was that the idea?
Yeah.
Used to idolise him? You played Hawthorn under 19s?
Under 19s, 17s, all little league.
They could only take a couple, couldn't they?
No,
Yeah.
they
Redheads.
They delisted me.
See, that's almost, what do you, it's not racism, what do you call that now? Redheadsism.
There's a vilification. Sorry, but it's still
Yeah, we can talk like that.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's mildly accepted.
Yeah. But there was something about that list back then that they only had a couple of vacancies there, wasn't there?
Yeah,
that
it's
they
when the 19s and the 18s become a swap over there, so they got rid of the 19s and created now the TAC Cup. So, I was delisted, unfortunately, Derm. So.
Yeah. Very disappointed
Couldn't
about
have
that.
two blokes strutting around.
Well, welcome, mate. In all honesty, one of our absolute favourites, and with the Tigers now, and they're kicking on. They're doing pretty well. You must, you're out of the fire, so to speak, up north at his mob. Yep. Oh, your old mob too, aren't they? Yeah, of course. And well, you're the reason why the Tigers are going so well now.
Yes, 8 months is a long time in footy, Derm, isn't it? But they're really excited, enjoying the time with Dimmer and the boys. And
but I will say, when I went down to the rooms after the Melbourne game.
Yep.
To see you smile and have as much fun. I know it's real hard work, but to see you enjoying it as much as you do, you must be wrapped.
Yeah, I think we're really enjoying the brand in which we're playing down there, and the boys are competitive. And look, we've still got a relatively young group in a lot of sense, and I coach the forwards, which is, apart from Jack Riewoldt, a pretty young group. But, geez, they really have a crack, and we're enjoying that and making that the basis of our game.
So is it a complete game plan change from last year, or is it a game plan beautifully executed by some informed players?
I think there is some changes, and most of it's got to do with personnel, really. I mean, it's funny, our front half turnover stuff's been pretty good, our pressure's been pretty good, and that's been commented, but it's mainly to do with the introduction of the players you bring in. If you want to bring in a lot of small blokes that can be really quick, geez, you'd want to pressure, wouldn't you? Otherwise, because you can't really mark the ball as much. So, yeah, it's really been as much as the personnel that's aided the game plan change.
See Brisbane have a big win last week, and Chris Fagan got involved in the song. You had a big away win. Was there any talk of joining in and making it a big club thing at any stage, or is that done and dusted now? Or is that just a spur of the moment thing that may happen depending on emotion?
I don't think there's any rules around that stuff. I think that's really up to the club and the coach at the time what they want to do. I think I'm probably still tarred by the Lee Matthews brush, but no one was allowed to in any circle apart from the players. So you sometimes carry those things through your coaching career. They're things that don't really matter, let's be honest, at the end of the day. But it's always good when you see the whole club in there. They love it. The supporters love it when that happens.
I want to ask you about, you mentioned Jack Riewoldt before, and it would take, great players like Jack, they're always wanting to come to the footy. It would take a pretty serious player to ride roughshod on him and go, get out of my space. And that's what Dustin Martin did. We've got some footage coming up here now to show that. Well, you can talk us through it at the end and tell us what you see on this. But you look at Dusty Martin here. Now look at him. Twice he points to Jack Riewoldt, get out of my space. Don't bring your man here because I've got this done.
Yeah, it's really good team play by Jack. I mean, let's be honest, we want to get him out of the way for the good players, don't we? I'm sure he'd be listening right now, so I'll put that one in for him. But just ultimately, that's great team play. I think they're the little things that we're really enjoying.
A little bit of both?
A little bit of both, but it's really good.
Because he's not going to run away for young Butler. If Butler goes, get out of my space.
Well, I'm hoping he does. Maybe. But it's just smart play not to bring him inside. You got to play with a 1v none up ahead. You don't want to run your player into that space. So it was really just smart work by Jack.
Just while we're talking about Dustin Martin, are you surprised that he doesn't get tagged? Or has he had people come to him?
He has. It's really hard for probably to tag Dusty. It's an intriguing matchup. But
Why?
Well, he's just, for the fact that he can go forward, he can go mid. It's a very special type that can only be with that player that can compete as a forward. He's strong enough not to get... He's our best one-on-one player inside 50 right now, and he's probably only playing 20-30% down there. So you've got to be able to match him in the inside and then go forward and
I have my
do that as
reservations
well.
early as a midfielder that he mightn't be able to outrun most other oppositions. What's his tank like these days? It looks to be pretty good, but what is it like?
He's an ultimate burst player, as you see. That footage pretty much sums up Dusty. You know, he's got 2 or 3 of those in him, and then needs a break, probably rest forward and go off. So, he's a real power athlete. And
your spread from the contest, though, is a part of that reason. But I think it's good as well because I think they're getting better ball. Dusty's ball this year is a lot more efficient. Alice's ball is now moving forward rather than back and going across. Cotchin's not wrapping around the back anymore. So it seems like that has just enabled you, with a change in personnel in terms of the way you want them to play, has helped your entire spread as a team to get away from the contest and be more accurate.
Yeah, and the guys are really playing to their strengths, and I think that's important. I think particularly when you play with the ball. I mean, we often all have a style, don't we? We grow up, and whether we're an intercept mark player or we run and carry player, I think all of our players at the moment are sort of playing to their strengths, and it's obviously helping the team. Still a long way to go. I mean, I know we're all pumping ourselves up right at this second. There's still 8 weeks to go, and we've got a lot of work to do as a footy club. But I guess right now we're tracking, where we want to be.
One of the players that's probably been harshly criticised over the years for Richmond, before we get on to St Kilda, Brandon Ellis. He seems to have been having a really good year, and he gives you that run-off halfback that probably has been missing, especially with Hooley out of the side.
Yeah, he's been really high in the last month. His influence for the footy club and just his possession gains and ability to transition back the other way. So, yeah, I think the backline in itself, and Ben Rutten does that, and he does a really good job, not only the tools with Rancy and Dave and Dylan, but also those halfbacks. But good effort with our Basher also last week is probably our main driver there.
Yeah.
Now, you're up in a real danger game here because the Saints can be seriously on or lower-ranked teams can get them. Last week they showed that their heat, their pressure was going to be good, and they go in runs with that for a few weeks. They're a good pressure team. What is it you see about the Saints and how they do it?
Yeah, it's good summation to them. They're a really good pressure team. They're a good front half pressure team as well. They press forward really hard into your face and they make you make poor decisions with the ball. And that's a part of their strength. Really good modern style game of footy they're playing at the moment. So it's going to be a real challenge for us. We have to be really on and switched on in close this week because, as you see in the vision, they have swarming numbers and they really ramp the pressure up on you.
Nick Rewright's been a super player for a long, long time. He's going to break the marks record, maybe this week, maybe the week after. What concerns you most about him? Obviously, he's going to cover enormous territory.
5 behind Dempsey and 6 to be the all-time greatest.
So maybe it's a couple of weeks because Justin will shut him down. Yeah. But are you more concerned if he's doing that wing, half-back running role or deep 50?
Obviously, his most damage is inside 50, what he does. But he's got that great motor that he can also get back and assist, and then he can do it all. Yeah. It's amazing at his age. I mean, I even played on him. That's how long ago. That's how long he's been around.
I played with him.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Twos at Brisbane. In his first game for the Brisbane Lions Twos.
How'd you go back then?
I actually can't remember.
Never introduced yourself to him, that'd be right.
So glad I asked you that then.
Are you surprised, we move on to another game, are you surprised that in the one weekend we had 2 of the serious aerial intercept markers in the comp tagged, well, as good as a tag and a press on the other one, and Jeremy Howe and also Trengo did a job on Rance?
Yeah, it was. It was interesting, isn't it? I mean, the possession game players are so important nowadays. You see halfbacks tagged a lot, the runners, the drivers off halfback, but
not so much the markers.
No, you don't often see it. So it's I think over the time it's happened in spurts, but I wonder if it's going to be a trend going forward. But Alex was definitely, I know, rattled at half time coming into that. He wasn't prepared, but after that he did a good job.
So we saw Koch speak to him. Did any of the coaches have a chat to him, or what might they have said?
Yeah, look, only Ben Rutten and probably Koch were the two. You try and keep the distance a little bit. You don't want 8 people running at you when you know you've sort of had an average first half of the game. I thought it was handled really well, and Alex responded. That's the most important thing.
How do you respond? What is he the kind of bloke who says, give me another shot at him, or does he say, give me the information? What does he want?
Well, most of the time it's about just keeping it simple. What do you want me to do? And often it's just to go out and play on Trengrove and make sure he doesn't have an influence. It's as simple as that. I think sometimes you can try and do too many things. You know, I'll try and break the tag, I'll play on him, you go over there, and you end up confusing yourself. So I think once he settled into it, it wasn't an issue. If
the Saints do it to him this week, what will you do?
Oh, he'll be well prepared for it, I would have thought, this week. I won't tell you exactly what he'll do, but most of it will be pretty simple, basically, and him play to his strengths.
What about around clearances then from a Port Adelaide point of view? You scored okay from them, you actually handled things okay, but they just seem to get a little bit of a handle on you in that area of the ground.
Yeah, we did. We were able to at least manage the score sources from stoppage, which was important for us. I mean, we identified that they're great in that area, Port Adelaide, so it was good to do that and enable some of that outside work that you've seen to sort of probably just edge us over the line in the end.
Ryder, I think, critical, obviously, for them. So with the way Vardy played last week, that matchup now I think becomes, extremely important, especially Vardy with the confidence going forward to score.
Well,
and we know Ryder can do that.
Moose will be in soon, but he's adamant that he's always been a great proponent of Nathan Vardy, and we were all sitting back going, "Oh, come on, Moose, because he can't touch it." He's not introducing himself to the
agate. No,
yeah. But we saw last weekend his game. He came out, and especially in the last quarter, he was superb. I want to ask you about Andrew Gaff. There's certain players you tag in the comp. There's certain players you sort of let go. They let Andrew Gaff go last week, and he got it 42 times.
Yeah, often the next opposition looks at that with much closer than the one that's there. He's a difficult one, Gaff, because he gets a lot of handball receive ball as well, and he's such a line breaker, and he's such a hard worker and good runner. So
Port they really only send out one run with, don't they?
Yeah, Ebert does a bit of work, and he did that on Cochin last week. So it's sort of similar matchup that might do that this week.
So if you were in their box, would you say Ebert, Mitchell, Prudis, Gaff or Shuey? Who would you send him to? He needs a job, doesn't he? He likes a job.
You normally take the most outside of the group, and then the other ones you try and match at stoppage a little bit, get some bigger bodies on them. But if they're not going to beat you on the turnover or the spread, you're probably less likely to put a hard runner on them. So Ebert's a great hard runner, so you'd probably put him on the hard running type.
No Josh Kennedy for West Coast. Have you seen Jack Darling? I think he's handled taking the responsibility, really well. He's played well for 2 weeks in a row now. And
last week in particular, he was used as a target. We spoke before about Drew Petrie was the main target inside 50, and Drew looked like he was the most dangerous forward, and we've seen over numerous games, and in particular since he's been in the team and their loss to Gold Coast, he would look like the one who could break the game open. But Jack Darling was more the focal point, and I suppose it's an interesting one because Jack sometimes plays deep, but he gets up the ground as well, so he's not always the number one target inside 50.
Yeah, well, at Richmond he'd be an extreme tall,
but
he's only he's probably only a sort of a medium style in their setup, isn't it? So obviously a very good player, but obviously funneling more ball through him, and it seems to be working okay.
Did you ever play on Cam Mooney?
I did.
How'd you go?
I can't remember.
We'll let you
no, he did okay. I'll let him have 3 or 4 touches. We'll
let him sort it out when you. Moons is in after the break, boys. It's wet, cold and miserable work, but it's a job for 2 of our boys at the table.
It wasn't exactly a rooster's tail coming off the back of them as they were flying out of the blocks.
Cam Mooney,
hi, boys. Good to see you, mate.
Now, you're up there for Powerade, doing your whatever it is, Betty Boo.
Sure
and you just
I'm a bit dehydrated. I just need to get hydrated.
You know what
quickly,
you didn't do?
It was actually our second instalment, wasn't it, Joe? We did one in Sydney a couple of months ago. We went up to Brisbane, and as you can see, it was a horrible day. It was raining all day. It was actually the night we were up there for the game next day.
Oh, when we saw the thunder open up.
So the next day it was still raining, so we still had to do it.
Moons and I, of course, courageous, as you can see, straight out amongst it. The NRL boys. Who's the
NRL boys?
Justin Hodges, Mark Gasnier. They didn't want anything to do with the wet weather.
They
were there, but
a little bit soft.
in spirit more than anything. They just had wanted nothing.
Did they have a go?
You know rugby boys like that. They're not the toughest folk.
Especially when you call them rugby boys. They don't like that at all. It's league.
Sorry, the league boys. So, look, no, we had a good time.
What'd you do?
Well, we got through the agility, the beep, the power. And,
how'd you go, beep?
Beep was okay. No, scores have improved. Don't worry. We're going okay.
Come on.
We're going all right. Don't worry about that. No, the best part about it...
Dodge.
That was the thing, because I need to bring this up with Moons, because
A bit of off the
I
ball.
thought we're on the same team, yet Moons, it's quite clear there that you've got me in your sights.
I was just seeing
I know there's only 5
I
points
forgot all
between
about that
us.
actually happened, but actually I didn't lynch you because what it did, it reminded me of something that happened back in 2004.
no.
I don't know if you've ever seen this, Leopard, but this is where young Brad Johnson thought he'd outrun me and bang, straight over the top of him. Cameron Lynn gave me high fives. He didn't look at him whinging and carrying on. He's embarrassing.
Courage straight
Well,
off
the big
ground.
hairy cat coming in. Look at him.
Moose, what do you weigh, about 105? Little Bradley's about 78.
The smallest bloke on the field ran over him.
You really nailed the big Herculean key forward, haven't you?
So I thought I'd just reminisce, and we did that again. So
Did you miss any games?
No, I didn't miss a game. It wasn't that bad.
What, just a broken...
Just a collarbone, nothing.
Pop
out,
Yeah,
play
exactly. Yeah, no issue. Just
No worries.
sorted it out. But no, we had a bit of fun up there, and we've got one more to go. The actual best part about the day was meeting Wayne Bennett in the
we got
in
to
the,
go. So
in the
the
locker rooms.
Broncos training ground, so we got to go in there. We're having a shower, and in there's Bennett just doing weights and. This is great,
yeah.
Doing weights.
Yeah, doing a bit of a workout.
Fit,
So it was
looks
good.
great.
You got him for everything except the power.
Moons is
Do it.
unbelievable. Seriously, he can still jump. He gets really good height. So
What do you do?
I've got to work on that over the next period of time. We're a draw at the moment, so
You got Duck's
it's
disease, have you?
Yeah, I can't get off the ground anymore, mate. Especially if it's wet. You shouldn't see me in the wet. I couldn't get this far off the
What's
ground.
your jump? Did they tell you?
Look, I can't remember off the top of my head, but
King Owen phone book under it.
No, he's got
the
perfect
beam
because he
test and the
does this one
agility
as the
probably aren't
measurement.
my friends at the moment,
Yeah.
so that's what I'm trying to work on.
Yeah.
Mate.
You got the tattoo arms, have you?
Yeah.
when you put-
Oh, yeah, do that
that's
one.
it.
Then all of a sudden when you launch,
Bang.
Yep.
Over you go.
Smart.
Well, help us go through this one. You and Leber, Brisbane take on Geelong this weekend. The Cats, good win last week, obviously. You
Draw.
would have seen them, and you love seeing your old boys do super well. Let's have a look at who's in and out. Can you read that? I've got to put my specs on for that. Oh,
I'll tell you from a Brisbane point of
Selwyn
view,
Parfitt in.
seeing Dane Beams come back into the side.
Yeah, that's a big inclusion, of course, Dane Beams.
3 to 4.
I tell you, he got smashed by Shane Mumford.
Mumford, yeah.
Did the AC, but obviously he's
I
okay
reckon
to
after
get
what
back
he
in.
saw last week, he thought, I want a little piece of that. And
Oh,
He
geez.
must have
back
seen
into the
my
side.
vision and thought, well, if he can come back after a week after getting hit by Moons, then...
Well, it's interesting they're bringing Parfitt back in Geelong because unbelievable talent. They're big raps on him. I'm not sure if you've seen any vision of him, Leopard, but Matty Scarlett said at the start of the year he hasn't been excited about a young guy coming into the footy
So what does
club
he do?
since
I've
Joel
only seen
Selby.
glimpses of him so far. What does he do that
I think
excites
he's,
him?
well, you probably know him better than me, but
Yep.
he's unbelievably skillful, isn't he?
Oh, he is, and his natural run suits the way Geelong play. So he likes to cut the angles, get in behind, get that nice little
Is he
handball
quick,
receive front of the
super
mark.
quick, endurance
No,
runner?
he's not
What-
super quick, but he's just his smarts make him look really quick, and he's quick by hand as well in congestion. So he's just got that natural footy ability, Parfitt, and
I'm
he
not
excelled
sure how
before
much
his injury.
I'm not sure if he's had a run in the VFL or not, so they're virtually bringing him straight back, maybe after one run, but straight back in. So that just shows the faith that they've got in this kid at the moment.
We saw Dane Zorko a couple of weeks ago stink it up and get tagged by Reedy, and he got 5 possessions. He got 30 again last week.
He was best on ground last week. This guy, I think,
Essendon
we've spoken
didn't think
about...
that tag him.
It worked the week
You've seen
before.
him firsthand,
Yeah.
Lev. I mean, this guy, I think, should be spoken about is in the top bracket in the AFL as player.
Yeah, everyone's probably a bit late on this one, I think.
Yeah.
Did
You
he
know,
win 2 club champs
Yeah,
under you?
in the last 2.
Yeah.
I think the competition's probably late on this one. He's,
He's
a
a great
super
attacker,
player.
he's a great defender, he tackles, he does all the great...
He's probably Brisbane's most important player, I would have thought, the way they play.
He bursts
on the
away,
outside.
doesn't he?
Yeah, really good electric speed.
Can I ask you, as honest as you can be? I
here
understand.
we go.
I understand where you have to sit with this one. That list there right now, if they just went with natural progression, you didn't add to it, all those kids, say, under 23, how good can those kids be? Could they be a top 4 team? Or with the nucleus of that list, those under 23s, can they get to that stage?
Yeah, I think so, and I don't think anyone up there would have done that planning without it. It's obviously still a year or 2, maybe more away, but it's history would say you get the best young talent in the competition, and Jono knows all about who they are and what they are, probably better than me now. But the kids are sort of sticking around now. I think Ace is probably the only one that's left the last 4 drafts, so they're sticking together, and that's how a future's built. The Brisbane Lions of 2001 was built in 1992. Really, with Robert Walls and Scott Clayton there.
Yeah.
So, and I was a part of that start. So it does take some time. And
You always said retention was the biggest issue and the biggest thing that you had to change.
It is, and I think that attitude's shifting now, and it's really important that it does. But it's great to see it.
And add the
happening.
3 players that have come since you left. I mean, McCluggage, Berry and Witherden, they're classy young players and they're already stepping in looking like they're good quality with the players that Leper debuted.
Let's talk about the next game now. Collingwood take on Essendon, and Big
Just
Reedy's
quickly,
back.
have we mentioned the anniversary, the 16-year anniversary today?
Oh, yes.
Of the great Gary Moorcroft over there in the corner.
Gary Moorcroft, one of the greatest marks of this.
Today is the
century.
16th anniversary. Today.
16 years.
The greatest mark of all time.
You wouldn't believe it. Right? The
I
irony
love
around
you,
it-
but I think it was the best mark. Of all
It
time.
was unbelievable. I still laugh at the fact that Ben Harrison cheered the mark at the end of the game, which was absolutely hilarious. But anyway, and when I stood up, the crowd was giving you a standing ovation, so you knew it was big. The irony-
You always can
I
tell
had-
when you're
I
embarrassed
had-
'cause you get
No,
a
I'm not
vein come out in the
I'm
middle
not
of your
embarrassed,
forehead.
But what about, I'll do Brisbane Essendon, I walk in the Essendon rooms to do pre-game, and who do I walk into? Gary Moorcroft. I haven't seen him for
I saw the
years.
pictures, yeah,
And then
yeah.
the anniversary, and we run into each other.
16
which
years,
was,
he's
which
still
was
walking
funny.
He's absolutely flying.
Well, the Magpies, Reid comes back in, Travis Varco comes back in, very important for them, and Smith as well.
They had a bit of a-
disappointing last week.
They were disappointing.
Both teams were disappointing.
Well, Essendon to start with, and we know that like Essendon can play some good quick football off half-back, and we all know in most teams you need a good running half-back. Brisbane were able to press up, and they forced a lot of handball, which caused turnovers, and I think they didn't respond really well to the pressure at all. They forced the over handball instead of that kicking game that they
didn't
like.
defend the turnover at all, and particularly in the second and last quarters where Brisbane just ran straight back through them the other way. But Reid's the big one for Collingwood coming back in, surely. I mean, that was surely a big mistake last week of not putting him forward at least, knowing that there is that ability to swing him down back at some stage if they did need him.
How hard is that? I mean, from the outside, we look at decisions like that. Ben Reid going out of the side, Cox goes in. Obviously, there's a lot of consideration internally over a long period of time about who goes in and out.
Oh, it is tough, particularly the guys who got the runs on the board. Only Collingwood would know internally why he is or isn't in the team. But yeah, it is a hard one. One of your big names, you got to make that call. Jeez, it's hard. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting game, this one. Both uncontested mark teams, both like big numbers in that area to win the game. So yeah, it's going to be. Is it going to be the team that gets the best offense or the best defense that's going to get this one?
Mates, thanks. We're going to let you go.
Thanks, guys. Jono, you've been very good today, mate.
Cheers, mate. Yeah, so have you.
Save your energy up and give us some better highlights next time. A little bit later in the year, you'll be coming back in. And boys, we're going to talk about the baggers. They're up
Am I
next.
off?
You're gone.
Good.
We're back on.
We are.
Yeah.
Yes. We're going another game.
All right. Thank you.
Just helping you out.
Unreal. Can't get through it without you.
Carlton, Melbourne.
Carlton, Melbourne. All right. Who we got in and out? Kerno to miss a game with a larynx. That's not a common injury you wouldn't think in foot. Chicky had a crushed larynx. He's still feeling the effects of that. Who else has had bad larynx?
It's a rugby league injury from
Yeah, they have Gary Dempsey, I think.
He's still got a bad one. Still
Yeah.
talks like that.
Yeah.
Dempsey, yeah. Could get overhauled this week by Roo in the all-time marking department. But we've got Carlton against the D's. Carlton are showing a bit. We know they're a defensive team, but they are capable of making the odd upset. Melbourne are a good team, but gee, they're missing a few, aren't they? They got their captain out now, and they've got a few on the sidelines. Dom Tyson's going to be out as well. So this is going to be a little bit closer than one would think. They were disappointing last Friday. They were up against the Sydney Swans. Got to back up now, get a 10-day break, which is going to do them a world of good. But Carlton aren't to be taken lightly.
Oh, they're not. They're a good team. They're defending really well. They're probably a bit different to some of the bottom half teams where they're really heavily defensive and less offensive.
Marchbank's out.
Yeah, and
That hurts a
that's
bit.
important. But
Yeah.
the way they support their defence is terrific, Carlton. They're really well systemised, and you never want to take them lightly. I don't think
That was
whenever you play
an
them.
error in bringing Marchbank back on. He played on Jenkins the last 5 minutes. He stood the mark with one hand in the air. He couldn't contest. Jenkins was on fire in that last 5 minutes, took advantage of that. So there was that aspect of Carlton last week, and then just fatigue in probably the last 10 minutes of the game where Adelaide
Yes.
were just too powerful for them.
Yeah,
to
the
run
one thing
them-
I'd
run
say
away.
about that, but does bringing him back on, wanting to do it for the team and the team needing him to do it, he failed in the
Yep.
end, but does that send a message to the rest of this team that is desperately young, hey, even if you're hurt, team comes first? Does
better
it
pass
send
the
that
coach.
long...
Yeah, what we don't know is, did the kids say, no, I want to go out there? Or was he sent out? Or was he not
Yeah,
sure?
that's
They're
right.
all the bits we probably don't know in between. But all you know is what we saw.
Yeah.
Isn't it? And he's standing the mark with one hand. And,
Yep.
and it looked like from the stands, let's get him off the
Yeah,
ground. He's
when
not
when he
helping.
run out, he's running like that, and it's probably a fair indication you're going to line up on Jenkins. You're going to have to get both hands above your head or spoil with the hand that you can't raise.
Pretty hard to push on the shore.
Exactly.
Shore
So maybe go the other way then. If you're going to come on like that, I know he's a defender, but you might have to push him somewhere else to protect him a little bit so he can still have an impact for you.
You've been pretty happy with the kids and the pressure they're giving, though?
Yeah, they are. Like, Curnow was very good. Liam Jones is he's not a kid, but it's just he's been in the system 9 years. But huge surprise, I think, for all of us, and having spent a lot of time with Jonesy when he was at the Dogs as a forward, he had the capabilities in terms of the athletic attributes, but just couldn't consistently get it together. But you know, what he did on the weekend was just a magic effort, and I think he surprised the whole competition with how well he's going.
He's actually AFL 1 possession game player.
Yeah.
For the 4 weeks he's played. It's you know, he's a couple of hitter rants. It's been an amazing turnaround, hasn't it? I know
So we have a look at his scalps. Tom Lynch, 9 disposals. Jack Revolt, 10 disposals. He's got 2 goals, Jack. He's clever. Taylor Walker, 12 disposals, 1 goal, and that was from long range as well.
See, what Adelaide tried as well
scalps.
with Taylor Walker, they tried to get him right up the ground and take Liam Jones out, and it worked early. Liam Jones followed him.
So they're trying to take
It's a
him
massive
off.
turnaround, trying to drag Liam Jones out of the play.
But then
I mean, seriously.
yeah, they did though.
I mean, that's how good he's going.
But they were trying to expose, like, to get, and it worked because they got Eddie Betts going back and getting some uncontested ball inside 50. They tried a couple of things like that because Jones's speed is elite. And then they just adjusted, Carlton. That actually helped them, and it helped Doherty and Simpson and these guys when they actually got Liam Jones just to plonk himself back inside 50, and then it allowed Simpson and Doherty to actually play their proper game.
You just said he's played 9 years. How many more games are you going to play?
Jonesy,
Yeah.
he could play for another 9 years at fullback. Like,
Well,
who knows?
honestly,
He could,
he got another 150
I
games
don't know,
in him.
but
Well, they're-
I think
they're
the
a bit
jury's still
different.
out.
Contracts.
Well, the jury's still out in that because look, he
played
needs to get
three real good runs in a row.
Exactly,
But they're
exactly right.
real. They're not flimsy
No,
games.
they're real games.
This
but
this
it needs to
reminds me
turn
a lot of
into
the
a big one.
Stephen Martin thing a few years ago, where Steph was sort of last sort of 3 months of his career. Trent West did his knee and then played. And on
absolutely.
average, he would have been leading the best and fairest the back 8 games he played. And now
Yep.
his career's just blossomed.
That's
and,
right.
and it seems like it's going to go down a similar
Yeah,
path. Where
exactly.
it doesn't seem to be a stopping.
He just needs to remain. If he remains healthy for the remainder of this year, they've seen enough now, I think, Carlton, to say, "Yep, we'll lock you away again, give you another summer to improve in that area."
He's probably
And-
going to TAFE over the last 12 weeks thinking, where's my new
Oh,
career?
absolutely.
Well,
There's
that's
no
right.
doubt if he fell out of favour, he's getting picked up by
Do
someone
any other?
else.
I was going to
for
say,
sure.
do any other clubs come knocking for a
Well, you've got a
Liam Jones?
6'5" athletic bloke you've shown that can play down
I would
back.
have thought so.
Yeah, absolutely.
no doubt.
It's a career move.
Which is huge, isn't it?
I mean, it is huge.
Yep.
You had a look at the game. You love the pressure of, like, Jack Silvani.
Jack Silvani. Yeah, look, and it's only the little things, but I know you, as a forwards coach, you appreciate the pressure that's put on. And look, they get no stats for it and all that sort of stuff, but the impact it had in Adelaide getting the ball out was significant. It was 2 and 3 efforts consistently. He got a goal or so to help his game out and all that sort of stuff. But I sat back going, it's the first time I've seen Jack Silvani really attack it for 4 quarters in the pressure stake. So we understand he's developing and he'll be getting, more attuned to playing 4 quarters of AFL football. But it's that pressure side of things that, as you know, with your small brigade, that really helps you score.
Yeah, well, and he's not small, so it's
No,
actually
that's
a
right.
rare talent for someone. Sort of, was he 190 odd, maybe a little bit more. So it's a great, Philip, to have. Most of the 192 was doing more offence than defence. So it is a really good, Philip for Carlton to have.
One of the great matchups will be in the ruck. I mean, Cruiser, who's arguably in as good a form as he's ever been.
Career best, I'd
Because,
say.
like, we've always talked about, and I'm sure you look closely, his second and third efforts on the spread have pretty much been always good, or when he's fit, they're good. His tap work's been much better, and he's going to have a great contest against Gawn. He's still trying to work his way back into some match fitness.
Took some good contested marks too last week, Cruiser.
Yeah, it is going to be amazing. Cruiser, that follow-up, that's the bit that probably, he's probably the best in the competition, probably with Nankervis. Sorry, Nan, can I mention you as well? It's just that getting that secondary ball.
So Nankervis is at that level.
Yeah, he is. I think he had 10 contested possession last week, Nank. So whilst Ryder does a bit of that, he can get after the next ball, which is really helpful.
Yeah. He's probably a better kick than Cruiser too, Nanker. He's a lovely kick of the footy, Nanker.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, should have talked about him when we were talking about
Yeah,
Richmond.
sorry.
then.
Let's move on.
The problem was, we were talking
Back to
Richmond,
Richmond.
you two were pumping each other up.
And speaking of pumping up, what about the mighty Hawks? They're back.
Well, what they've done,
A little bit,
over especially the last couple of weeks, has been unbelievable, really.
He's coached brilliantly.
Well, it looked like, I thought the first half of the year, and we've all played in successful sides, they looked like they'd resigned, the experienced players looked like they resigned themselves to the fact the era's over. And now it looks like the older blokes have embraced the period that they're going into, and these young guys that are coming through, and there's a plethora of them. There's like half a dozen players that are playing roles and showing some real class. Some of them have been around a couple of years, but some of these players are playing incredible roles through the middle of the ground and down back in particular.
I just touched on Clarkson, but you go through their last 3 wins. He turns up against Sydney and he says, right, Rampy will play at the back. We isolate that. That'll give us Hodge free at our end. We put Roughhead into the middle for the bounces. Then he drifts forward. And he made all these serious little moves, obviously keepings off. And he had a win in the coach's box. He then comes up a couple of weeks ago and has a great win in the coach's box against Adelaide. He then comes up against Collingwood and has a great win in the coach's box, neutralises Jeremy Howe's ability to intercept mark, and he stretches and spreads Collingwood, anticipated zone. So when you go into the coach's box before the game on Saturday and he says, I've got an idea of how we're going to win this, you're going to dial in. Yeah. You're actually going to tune in and go, what's he given us this week? Because if he gives the right one, which he probably will, we'll win. Now, they mightn't win. They mightn't. But they believe in what he says.
It's a good shift, though, because I listen to you guys and Derm through your premiership years. You focus on yourselves, don't you? And you worry about what you're doing. The opposition's there. You know the little bits and pieces about them. But ultimately, you spoke about the way Brisbane would prepare and get themselves right for games. That's what Clarkson would be with Hawthorn, because they were so dominant with the senior players and core they had. Now to shift back the other way, it's probably helping his coaching, and that's why the players are buying in, because he's now focusing on maybe some opposition traits that he mightn't have had to in the past to get these victories.
Yeah, if you don't listen to Alistair Clarkson as a coach, you're probably not going to listen to anyone else. So, I mean, he's got the runs on the board to do that. But, yeah, the uncontested possession stuff still there. One would, I know their contested possessions they creeped up a little bit. But, they're just so good at moving the ball, and they recruit that way. They're one club that seems to, from the recruiting department all the way through to the playing field, are all on the same page with what they want to do and achieve.
Right across the board. Yeah, Burton, Hardwick playing that small defender role, Brand, Sicily, O'Brien, Howe through the middle of the ground, who's doing those bit of run with rolls. Sort of.
So he's rejigged those young players.
Yeah, he has. And we've got to remember what the work Mitchell's doing. He's only a kid still. I mean, he's come in, played an incredible role. But it looks like if they get the game on their terms, that uncontested style, and hit their targets, they don't lose. Like, they haven't lost the game. If their kicking percentage is 70 or above, they haven't lost the game this year. So you've got to put pressure on Hawthorn.
I think they're 1-6, is it? From
the other
70?
way.
The other way.
Yeah.
6 and zip if they go lower than 70.
Yes.
Yeah, so what about the GWS? Still the best list in the comp, but we pointed out a few weeks ago, like about 8 weeks ago, they lack a pressure forward. They lack pressure and intensity sometimes. And perhaps, Lepper, it's because purely talented players have never really had to do it that hard in their juniors and doesn't come natural to them.
You want me to comment on that? She's talking about throwing me under the bus there, isn't it?
We cut you out of the rest.
Well, you have a look at this. That's Kennedy pointing. We're talking about Menegola just walks through here. There's a lot of pointing. Who's got him? Who hasn't? I haven't. Somebody else should have him. There's a lot of delegation, but no doing.
That happens a lot in games, funny enough. I know, we cut up a lot of vision, and you see times where you're thinking and pointing too much than actually doing, and that can happen, particularly when you're playing a zoning type defence at times and holes will open. Sometimes coaches just cop that as an error, and will cop that one for the 8 or 10 other times it works. So without knowing exactly what was supposed to happen and who was going to take her, usually at some point someone has to close that last bit down.
Yep.
Hear that loud one? That was Robbo just walking around.
Hello, Mark. This time every night. And what about the frustration? Go on.
Go on.
What about the frustration when we saw on the weekend with GWS, couldn't get Jonathan Patton on the ground? So he's basically sat off 10 of the last 11 minutes. How hard how hard is that? Oh, is it 8 minutes? Something like that.
Oh, geez, you'd want to be in the coach's box right then and listen to Leon Cameron, wouldn't you, the last 5. Look, obviously rotations are a very important part of the game, but I still wouldn't think GWS would want him off the ground that long.
Could you get to a stage where a player would actually make the call? There's 7 minutes left, mate. I know my lights come up and it's my time to go off, but you know what? I'm winning here.
I'm flying.
Do you mean someone like Jack Rewell?
Neville Marcos. I'm flying.
Yeah, look, I think that's what your leaders do pretty well. At times, often the opposite happens. Like a Dusty, I think might have been that particular play, went for a big run. There was 90 seconds left and he's coming off the ground, and you're like, no, just go forward.
Yeah.
Like, two things: you don't want to waste a rotation probably in the last minute of a quarter either, because you only got so many to play with, but also just go forward and hold there. So it can happen both ways.
Before you go, the rotation light is
up,
and on comes Mr. Nathan Brown. Here we go. Welcome, Brownie, from Sportsbet.
A man who doesn't like to go off the ground.
Wouldn't go to the bench?
Well, hey,
No.
why would you?
You don't run that much on the forward line.
I'm the odd one out here because all you guys are all teammates. Well, and you were the coach. What was it? 2000 and what?
2000.
Ireland.
99 and 2000, yeah.
You had these guys in Ireland.
Oh, really?
How'd they go?
You promised you wouldn't bring this up.
No. I just raised this part of
It
it.
was a long time ago. I was 24 years of age.
Okay, we'll let you control the answer then.
No,
Did you enjoy it?
How'd you go with these blokes?
Oh, fantastic. They... Oh,
How
how they
was
play?
it- was it
Oh,
any
they
good?
were average at playing. But
He made that more than the players. Don't worry.
So running home one night with the can of Kilkenny.
There was a
One of those big
rickshaw
ones.
once, and I was in the rickshaw getting a lift home at 3 a.m. And I looked out, and the boys had to be in by a certain time. And Brandon and a couple of the boys are running back, and I went, "No, good coach wouldn't do that." So I got out and ran and put him in the rickshaw. Now, what do you got for us, mate?
24 Up promo is flying along, and we've called this one the Dermot. The Bombers last week, a minute in the last quarter, they got paid out. They went 27 points up. Bombers fans are happy, but then they went along and lost. So Bombers fans aren't happy. That's one you'd be very happy about. Now, Adelaide Dogs, perfect one for 24 Up because Adelaide, the 5 games we've had so far have been paid out before quarter time on 3 occasions. So Adelaide get out the really big scores early. First goal scorer, I've been banging on about Ben Brown. It's getting tired how many times? 6 times. So I've gone on to someone new. 6 times he's done it so far this year. Did it last week. Jack Riewoldt, I think, this week. 2 out of the last 3 weeks. He's done it 4 times this year. He's at $7 to be the first goal scorer. Probably about the best backed has been West Coast. They've got a lot of players back in. Port Adelaide, 5 games against top 8 sides. Haven't had a win yet. No Kennedy, which brings me to our last bit. I did a heap of work on this one. The Coleman medal. I thought Josh Kennedy was going to be playing. I came in here, he was going to be $6, only 6 goals behind. I thought that's really good value. He's not playing. He's out to $8, so he's only 6 goals behind Josh Kennedy, so I still think he can get there with a couple of big games.
And before we go to a break, do you know when the last team was to make the finals without beating a team in the finals?
There was a team, was it Melbourne 1950?
He's right.
You're on
Okay,
fire
now,
tonight,
how
Orange.
good
I think
is
just
he
from memory.
going?
Set that up.
Yeah.
No, we didn't. No, we didn't.
Really good
I
memory.
was just thinking of that
Gamble
research.
responsibly, David.
Yeah, most certainly. Off you go. We're going to a break. And yes, Lindsay, we're on again. North
I'm
Melbourne.
just looking at my data. I was just looking, talking about big goal kickers. Ollie Matthews, I thought he kicked 14. He only kicked 11. That was his max. Had 41, but... had 41 touches, kicked 11. So sorry, I digress. Let's push on.
Clearly you have.
Yeah, no, I was just doing research.
Nice little aside there. Don't know what that's got to do with anything. But anyway,
We'll
here we
see
go.
in a minute.
North Melbourne take on Fremantle, and you have to read out the first game player. His name is... And we're sorry to Mr. and Mrs...
It's nice.
What's his name?
Nice.
Nyhuis.
Yes, nice.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice.
On good authority, I hope.
Yes. Well, good luck to the
We'll
young
work
lad.
it out. It's great. We love the first gamers coming in, having an
Absolutely.
impact, but they've got some other key inclusions as well with Hill back in, the run, Kirsten, Blakely. He's come back from his surfing trip, so he's right to go again as well. So,
I've got to say, I saw what I thought was the best small forward, midfield forward game of the season.
That's why I was looking it up.
Michael Walters.
Yeah, we're looking up Lee Matthews, small
I knew
forward.
there'd be a link leper. Sometimes it just comes from nowhere, but that's
was
where
right.
it was. Michael Walters, how much did he have? 32 and 6 goals. It was extraordinary. When you're planning against him, you got to have a specific matchup. Don't
Yeah,
you?
he actually tore it apart when he played Richmond also.
They got you in round 9?
Yeah,
38.
Yeah, he did, and he's an amazing player. They give him the ball a lot too. They're really adamant to make sure he does a lot of their running and distributing work. So, yeah, amazing.
He's added
result.
some really high energy to their midfield when you look at both Hill boys as well. When those three are out there, it's quite daunting for some of your players around the contest.
Yeah, it does, and they also complement the rest of their midfielders as well. They're taller, bigger, stronger midfielders as well.
Tell us about, I mean, you mentioned Hill. I didn't realise how hard Brad Hill works. And in that game, I think he had a reasonable game at the MCG.
Well, they both did, yeah.
Works extremely hard.
Yeah, Walters and Hill were both electric that day.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're really tough to match up on those guys. That actually, it's good to say, run with Bradley Hill, but go do it. It's easier said than done.
Yeah. You mentioned Hill as a recruit going back to the Dockers there. We just put together a list of recruits, the great recruits for 2017 from AFL team to AFL team. We'll skip forward to the next game now. Lyons has been fantastic for the Gold Coast. Hill's in there, Tui, as I said, Lyons, Hibbard, Brad Hill, Tom Mitchell, obviously, at Hawthorn, and Nankervis, the boy you mentioned before. There's been some good gets this year from within the league, hasn't there?
Oh, absolutely. You're always trying to find that one piece of gold every year in the trade period.
That somebody else undervalues?
Yeah, you could probably only say there's, when you go into a trade period, only 2, maybe 3 stars that might transfer from club to club, and the rest is somewhere behind that. But to get the result from 6 or 7 players already for clubs, big outputs, you'd be really happy with that.
Now, somebody's mentioned Tom Lynch and his leading. Who wants to take us through that? I'm not game to throw to you this week.
Oh, well, at least I've probably seen the vision before you threw to me like last week. All right, Tom Lynch, and we spoke last week, he'd had a couple of quiet weeks, struggled with his contested marks and his power to get off his opponent. And we just see his work rate last week. And when the great research I was doing midweek found out that he had a big cork in his lower back, so couldn't get around, but he pushed hard out onto the fat side to create space. And we know at his very best, and Lepper, you'd see this firsthand, at his very best, he's one of the hardest working key forwards in the game.
Yeah, he is, and that's why he gets all those accolades, because he can get up the ground like you see here, but also, dominate, really clean with the hands, stick the knee up and maximise those
Won't go to ground.
1v2 even opportunities, he can mark those. So, yeah, obviously had a little form slump. It's just for a small period there. Often happens. We never know, do we? They play injured at times, don't they? And we often criticise them for it. But, yeah, he's a
makes others
player.
move, though, and when you've got 40-metre leads like that to really dangerous positions, it makes you want to go then. So you can see that he's going to mark uncontested on centre wing. So as the next forward wrapping around or a midfielder pushing to space or back on in that 45, you know that you're a big chance to get the ball pretty much and have an effect, continue going forward. So runs like that make others work.
Oh, he's extremely welcome at Richmond anytime.
Looking at their opponents, Sydney. Just, obviously we all know how they had a poor start, but they're young guys. I mean, you need your experienced players to play well, no doubt about that. But you look at their younger guys that are just week in, week out standing up now. Papley, Hewitt, Florent, Heaney, Mills, Newman, Zach Jones.
Newman's been real good.
Lloyd. Lloyd just racks them up as well. Yeah. And they've got really good depth all of a sudden.
They really back Lloyd in as their distributor and kick-in player as well. One thing I like about Sydney is their defence numbers have come down considerably. The first 7 rounds to the back. They're the best team at not getting scored against in the competition at the moment, the last month. So they've really tightened that part of their game up, which, they're a super team, hard to beat. If and when they probably do climb up the ladder and get in the A, you wouldn't want to play them at all, that's for sure.
Because they're so powerful in the middle and they're those big, heavy and great contested ballers, they obviously need Zach Jones and Lloyd out of the back half with a bit of pace. Can the Gold Coast pace out of the back half, Sardi and Harbour, can that trouble them? That's
going to be the game where the Gold Coast extreme uncontested possession game get going, or Sydney's new defence, as we just mentioned, just close them down. I think probably in Sydney, that venue at Sydney probably get that stranglehold. But geez, if Gary Ablett and his boys, well, he's not playing, but if they get on their game, they're going to be really hard to beat.
You mentioned Zach Jones was playing. And I've had my head buried in something else all week, so I haven't heard. How did he get off? And I know you were.
I was an advocate for him getting off because
take me through that.
He ran through the ball. He touched the ball on the way through. Player coming this way, tracking the ball. He ran out the ball. He collected the ball.
What? Trying to pick it up like that?
As he saw him about there, he went like that. Contact coming, bang,
you're a genius to get him off.
You're only used to making that call because that's what Bundy said to you when you were getting the game ahead of him.
He said I was
dirty on you because you were a 0 agate possessor.
That's right. I was just a little surprised. Sorry.
Let's go to the next game. Adelaide take on the Western Bulldogs. Now, you guys lost to Adelaide big in round 6. What do they do that really hurts you?
They protect their defence really well, and then they start their offensive chain. They're a really good turnover team, and if you allow them to be, be, which teams obviously spend a lot of work on Adelaide now. I mean, if there's any team you want to really study at the moment, it's
That
the
was a
Adelaide
good day to
Crows.
Robbo. Hello, Mark.
So that was it, yeah. So since your game, they put a lot of focus on Sloane and in particular probably Laird off their half-back line.
Yeah, exactly. And those guys are such good at protecting their defence and creating extra numbers behind the ball to start their offensive change. So you've got to be careful and sort of gets managed the outside of their game because they're so good at getting those release players.
Gee, Tom Lynch, 2 weeks in a row with the virus. That must be a serious takedown, that, isn't
he's
it?
coming back. He's lost 5 kilos.
Yeah.
Wow. So it was in a pretty bad way. So hopefully he's going to be back in a week or two. But he's an important player as well as that link player.
He is. He's, I don't know what name you give that forward, a conduit forward, one that sort of links the back to the forward. And because he's his height and size, you play a bigger guy on him.
Yeah.
Geez, you've got to be able to run to play on him as well.
Yeah. And Johannesson and Stringer, I watched Stringer, I've written an article tomorrow about him. It's just a few observations. But Johannesson, I think they were number 2 in the competition for effectiveness of bringing the ball from back half into their front half. Almost the day after Johannesson gets tagged, they've gone to 16th in ability of bringing the ball from back half to front half.
Yeah.
So it's a massive impediment on their game while he's getting tagged. They have to find a way through this.
Yeah, and it's a challenge. You know, the tagging has seemed to come back a little bit more in vogue than it has. And, tagging those outside types. Obviously, Sloane, he's not a complete outsider, but he's a possession game player.
Yeah.
Johannesson as well. So everyone sort of tends to find out who's the most damaging player of that opposition. Everyone have a different thought on who that is and what style it is. But it seems to be working against them. So teams often keep doing it, don't they?
So now no Robert Murphy as well. There's run. Biggs provides a little bit of run out of the back line. Matty Boyd back into the lineup. So Matty Boyd's going to get his 25, and that's where they'll be looking to, I suppose, fill a little bit of that void of
His
of coming off
distribution,
half,
though,
off
isn't he,
half
rather
back. His
than run.
short kick. Make sure they retain possession coming out of the back half of the ground. Libber back into the middle, so they'll be looking for some grunt through that part of the ground. And Clay Smith back in for Tory Dixon, so hasn't had too many opportunities of late, Clay Smith, but that's a huge challenge for the Western Bulldogs, I think, especially through the midfield. The Crouch brothers last week, in the last quarter, had 22 disposals between the two of them, and that pretty much got them over the line against the Blues, who started just to run out of a little bit of steam. But to Matty Crouch in particular, I think his rise in the competition is growing rapidly.
Hawthorn gave Carlton a bit of a blueprint, and Carlton have carried it on.
Yep.
Adelaide, you've got the ball. It's a set shot, a set kick down the back flank, and Adelaide set up down the middle of the ground, down that side of the ground to the narrow side of the boundary. And we heard Luke Hodge mic'd up and he said, go back and around, retreat and come around, to go back and around. And Carlton did, because they actually like using the horseshoe kick around the back line. And they pretty well denied Adelaide a lot of the footy. Is that a blueprint you're going to wander in with v Adelaide?
Well, I think, watching Carlton last week, it was 24-zip. Adelaide went bang, 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 and it was, everyone thought, how far Adelaide? And then Carlton took about 10 minutes off the clock in that first quarter and kicked 1 goal. And it just seemed to build confidence within their lineup. They started to get their structures right. They retained possession. Blokes were starting to get a handle of the ball. And it was just a slight growth like that, taking time off the clock.
I think Carlton have done that well to all the good teams this year, so I wouldn't undersell them. I think Charlie Cameron.
So that's their normal mode?
Yeah, I think so. Okay. Yeah, I think Charlie Cameron's the difference.
Yeah.
I think he's probably the most defensive forward. I mean, they've got probably the most talented forward group in the competition.
He and Miller would get up too high, and they use their pace to get through.
He's the one that can really, I'd love the little small forwards, don't I? But he's the one that can really dart in and add that extra bit of pressure to help them lock the ball away.
And how do you, when he comes off the back flank at centre bounces, what do you do about it?
It's a challenging one. He's probably one of the better ones that are just given his pace and that free run. He can actually pretty much get past the centre circle by the time the ball hits the ruckman's hands. He's that quick, so he's a real challenge. Teams have tried different things to match him back the other way. You try and run him with him, which is a challenge again, or you meet them off the sides. I know some teams have tried 2 players, so whichever side he goes, you can pick him up. So there's so many things to do.
No, why aren't sides getting physical coming off the wing, Derm? I know
we rolled that out last year.
I didn't mean to come up with that.
Nice bit of footage.
But in a way, why aren't sides coming off and actually, it's a physical game. You are, in a way, allowed to block that run or put a bump on if they are within range of the with range of the football. We're not seeing any of that. It's just uncontested every side, every time, coming through the middle of the ground.
Yeah, and sometimes you find both teams are doing it as well. So it's very, very tactical, the centre square bounce. Probably the most tactical part of the game is what you do there. You've got 45 seconds to set it up, so a long time to come up with something.
Yeah, that's right.
Just before we finish up, how many did you kick on Wayne Carey from centre half back?
8, I think.
It was 8, yeah.
What was it, 5? Well, it's been 15 years, so it's growing.
I got it in for you.
Oh, well done, Lynch. Fantastic having you come in. We wish you all the best for the rest of you and the Tigers, especially this weekend.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks.
Good luck, mate. 360's up next, boys, with Jared and Robbo. You would have heard him walking down the stairs a couple of minutes ago.